Welcome back. We've got two more hands to review. We are continuing our theme of open raising, an early position getting called, and then going down to showdown. We're doing this to assess our c betting and barreling strategies, see how if we could perhaps improve it, or perhaps maybe looking for spots where we could have barreled it, but we didn't. So hand number one, I've got pocket jacks. Early position, this is 25 NL table, full ring. I open raise. We get villain 4 to call, and that's it. So it's just villain 4. He's in position. He's 25-17. I have 73 hands on him. So just from the 73 hands on him, he seems to be somewhat tight. He's playing more. He's played 4 out of 17 from early position. He's played 3 out of 8 from the big blind, 6 out of 9 from the small blind. But his MP cutoff button, he's only played, a handful of hands. So I'm going to guess he's somewhat tight. His pre-flop raise and 3-bet percentages are somewhat high, so he's probably more of a looser, aggressive type player. So let's see if we know what he 3-bets. His 3-betting range is sevens, ace, king off. So I think what he's going to probably be doing, those sevens, that 3-bet may be against loose players. I only have 73 hands on him. He'll have the same on me if he's paying attention, and he should see that I'm pretty tight. So I think maybe his 3-betting range might be a little bit tighter. So what is he going to call with? Let's get hands like this. Probably suited aces, maybe. Maybe something like that. Let's give him smaller pocket pairs. He has raised with his higher 3-betting percentage at 15%. I think we are going to maybe not all pocket pairs. Yeah, we're going to leave these small ones as just calls. We're at 13.4% range. Still might be a little bit tight. Let's look at, say, he'll 3-bet ace queen. Maybe he doesn't 3-bet ace queen off. I think that's okay. He'll probably call. Not many people call with these offsuit hands, but with his looseness, maybe he is calling some of these Broadway hands to get lucky. That's at 15.8%. His call pre-flop raise is 19%. We're probably okay with this range. Maybe a little too tight, but we'll go with it. Maybe ace 10. All right, so against this range, we're going to be doing okay. We've got 73%. We should be ahead on most flops. And we can't really be scared if an ace, king, or queen comes. Obviously, ace is going to hit our range just like it's hit his range, so we may be able to bet and get king or the queens to fold. But I think if we bet, I don't think ace is going to fold. So we see a river of 9-4-3, which looks like it's actually a pretty good flop for us because we have an overpair. And if we bet, we could assume that we will get called by a pretty wide range of hands. So his fold to c-bet's 50%. It's only 2 out of 4. I think if we bet, he's probably going to call with his pocket pairs. Maybe not his weak pairs, his ace 3 deuces. And maybe not his middle pair. I don't know, those are 10% total. But I think he's going to call it pocket pair below top pair. Maybe he does call all. Because if you think about how this board hits my range, it's not really going to be hitting it much. I'm going to have a lot of overcards. I may have the club draw, but and of course I have the overpairs. But that's only his question is, do I have the overpair or not? And if I don't, then it's likely that I completely missed. So he might call at least once with all of the pairs. His flush draw, he's going to call open-ended straight draw. It's probably call with a gut shot. Maybe he's going to call with the 2-card backdoor flush, and that gives him overcards at this point. So he'll have hearts. Maybe he'll call with all of his aces too, just to see if he gets lucky and catches an ace. That gives us 72.7%. That might be a little too wide, but he is in position, so he may be a little bit more liberal to call, especially the looseness aspect of it. So I think we're going to probably be okay with that range, and we're ahead still, so no reason to panic at this point. So we bet half pot, and he called. And I think he's calling with these range, and we see a turn of the 5 spades. Now, on the surface, I don't think this really helps his range much. It definitely isn't going to alter, help us. I mean, if we were ahead on the flop, we're likely ahead on the turn. However, this 5 now puts up some other straight draws. A straight's now possible. So, if he called with the gut shot with 6-7, he hit it. If he had ace deuce, he'd now hit the wheel. And let's take a look at that. If he has a straight that's 7%, his straight draws, he's got higher percentages now in his draws. So the question is, what do we do here? Do we bet? Do we raise? I think what we should probably do is bet. Fire that second barrel. And we're going to be betting for value because I think the flush draw is going to continue to call. And I think with that 5, we're going to generate calls from more hands. So like 7-8 will probably be might be calling. 5-6 would call. Maybe 2-3. He doesn't have 2-3s. 5-6 would call. Maybe flush draws mostly. And I think if we bet and we get raised, we can probably get rid of the hand because you don't normally see people raising with clubs. And if they have a top pair 9 hand, I don't know if they're going to necessarily raise that. I think they would have raised it on the flop because they're going to be concerned of an overpair coming. So I think if we bet, he's going to call his straights and sets 2 pair. I think his top pairs are going to raise. His pocket pair below top pair, I don't think so. I think pocket 6s is going to probably call. His middle pair might call again, with the exception of maybe ace 5. I think ace 5 might just go ahead and fold. But the other 5s are 7-5 and 6-5. So I think both of those are gonna call. Let's take ace 5 out. Weak pair hands would include 6-4, ace 4, ace 3. So we're going to also filter these because I don't think ace 3 calls. I don't think ace 4 calls. Yeah, they've got the gut shot, but I just pocket 2s will call. 6-4 will call. And does he call the gut shot with the ace? He might. I'm gonna add that back in. So take out that filter, and that means ace 5 is also gonna call because he's got the ace. A 2 is gonna give him a gut shot. Players do that. They will make that play, and that's kind of why we should lead here. We should bet again to get value from all of those weak hands. And flush draw is going to call. Open-ended straight draw is going to call. I don't think all of the gut shots are going to call. I don't think. I think in order for him to call with the ace, he has to have a pair. So the ace 3, ace 4, ace 5 is going to call. I think ace 9 is going to call, or ace 9 might actually raise. I think ace 10, ace jack. I don't think they're going to be calling. 9-7. might call, but again, top pair hand. I kind of think I'd expect him to raise 8-7. Um, Definitely, we already have 7-6, and probably I don't know. I think the gut shots. I think we're too optimistic with the gut shot of what he calls. So if we bet, I think he's going to call 54.8% of the time. If he also calls with top pair, we're still at 58.3. So really, he's going to have sets and straights and maybe two pair. That's going to be 27% and not quite 30% of his range. But he still has over 70% of hands that he could call that we beat. So I think this should be a value bet here. I checked, and I think that sets up an interesting perspective, because now that we checked, he could bet his entire range. Being aggressive, he can look at it and say, well, yeah, I fired out a C bet with ace king or ace queen, because that's standard. He calls, and then now the jig is up. I'm just going to check, and I'm going to check fold all those hands. So he bets 9.84. He bets like 2/3 pot on here in this hand, and I really do think he's going to be betting his entire range here. So I don't think we can fold. I think we just check call. We've got our overpair. We've got value. I think he's going to be betting here with a lot of his range. And if we go to the turn, he's never been in that situation where he's faced where the double barrel missed or didn't continue with the double barrel, and so he bet out. So this is the first time. So I think we're going to call. We have to call. And then the 9 of spades hits. And pot's 34.44. I have 36.8. I check, and he bets all in. So now that I called, the question is, what is he going to do that with? Now, what is he going to do that with? I think when he does this, I think he is right at 3 of kind, straight full house. He is just looking and hoping to get called. Yeah, you occasionally see people bluff, with the ace high, no made hand. But, I look at it saying, if he has a weak pair or middle pair or pocket pair below top pair, why not just check it down? Why not just see it? Same thing with an overpair. Why not just check it down and see if you win? Because, I bet, and then I called his bet on the turn. I myself might have an overpair. I'm going to fold all of my club draws. He doesn't have to bet that high. So I kind of think he's up at 3 of a kind or better. So he's got a 9, or he had, he hit trips and now it just filled up. I think this is his time. You just got to fold. We play, kick yourself in the butt for playing it poorly. But fold and move on to the next hand. I didn't do that. I actually called all in, and he shows 3s. He showed the full house. So it's in his range. We had it in there. I think it was standard. I think on the turn, I think we bet again, and even the bet sizing on the turn, we would still get the value from it. So if we did half pot. If we did half pot again, I think we're going to maybe get the 9s out. So when that 9 hits, we don't have to be as concerned with him having trips. But then, if we bet and he calls, and then we get to this river, now I think what we can do is just say we can check. We can check and see what he does, because the 9's horrible. We could see him maybe calling instead of raising with the top pair, and now he just hit trips. But also, if we bet, none of his clubs are going to call. None of his straight, missed straight draws are going to call, and he probably won't even call with 3s, 4s, or 5s. So like the one pair hands. So I think by betting the turn, it kind of gives us more clarity as to what his hand might be. Um, it let at least define it and get to the situation. So when we check the river, we can look at it and say, okay, what is his stats? What is his float on the river? Well, never hasn't really done that. Um, but we can look at his wins and say when he does get to the river, he wins 60% of the time. So it's unlikely that he's going to call with a crappy hand. Probably unlikely to bet with a crappy hand too. So we had it in his range. We called it. I think we should have probably fired that second barrel, and we should have fired for value because there's a lot of cards that he could now call one more bet. All right, this is first hand. Let me close things out and get hand number 2. All right, hand number 2 is pocket sixes. This is a 10 NL table. This is actually a full ring table, but we are currently 6-handed. So I open raise, and I get called by the small blind. I have 287 hands on the small blind. I don't really have any auto notes generated, but I have him playing 25-7. So VPIP 25, pre-flop raise of 7. I have him in the small blind playing 30-some hands. So it looks like he's a little bit more loose in the button and the blinds. A bit tighter early position, mid position. So and his raises. His raise first in stat, I think reflects that. So 33% from the button. His 3-bet by position is pretty low, so I think he's more passive. He's not going to really raise if he has a decent hand. So let's give him these pocket pairs. Let's give him suited aces. Let's assume he would raise queens plus ace king. I think ace queen suited. Let's give him these suited cards. All of those, that's 17.2%. Still a little bit narrow. Let's say he's going to go with ace fives, all the offsuit ace fives, maybe these offsuit Broadways, 26 plus these. We're at 30.8%. That's probably wide enough for this player. Yeah, it's going to be wider than the 25, but as we looked at the small blind, he is tending to see more hands in the small blind, probably because he rationalizes that he has money in the pot. So he's getting a discount on the call. So pocket 6 against that range, 55. We're going to be ahead, not by much, but we're going to be ahead. And we see a flop of 9-8-6, and I think that's a pretty good flop for us. I think this board hits a lot of the calling range that's out there. How much so? Pretty solid. So just if we say top pair or better with open-ended straight draw, just with that we're at 40%. So 40% of the time he's going to hit, and that's actually good for us. Now, if we think about the player himself, he folds the c-bet 71%, folds turn c-bet 33%. He's going to call a lot on the flop and then fold more on the turn. So he's probably also calling with a lot of those pairs, probably gut shots, maybe 2-card backdoor flush draws. I mean, we're at 83%. There's a lot of cards that this player is going to call. So at this point, we should be planning to make a continuation bet for value because he's going to call, and our continuation bet should kind of be on the larger size. So 5 big bets, 5.5 big bets. And that's what we did. We bet 5 big bets, which I'm glad I did because we know he's going to call. And then he surprised us and check raised. So I think with the check raise, we don't see it a whole lot, but the check raise tends to indicate strength or a good draw. This player, when we look at check raise, he has check raised 0 out of 15. So he's going to be pretty tight. So the question is, what is going to check raise? I don't know if a straight's going to check raise. I would expect the straight to just to kind of check call because when I raised, that straight. I mean, what else? There's no flush on the board, so I don't. I'd expect the straight just to kind of check call. Um, Same thing with the sets. I kind of expect the set just to check call here. Um, Two pair, 9-8. Also, I think it's he hit the board so hard that it's why should you check raise and blow me out of a hand? If I have ace king, ace queen, or king queen. I mean, any of those cards on the turn isn't going to change the fact that this player is going to be ahead. But I could see overpair. So tens and jacks betting here, check raising, because now they don't want an ace or a king or a queen to fall and counterfeit their overpair. Top pair could check raise. Is it all top pair? Possibly. When we look at how many hands he had in his range, the top pair constituted 30%, or 30 hands total. So yeah, I think top pair might check raise. But I think middle pair, weak pair, um, he doesn't look aggressive enough to do middle pair and weaker pairs. Same thing. I don't think he's aggressive enough to do it with the gut shots and 2-card backdoor draws. Open-ended straight draws, maybe. Maybe not all of them. Maybe just 10 jack. He's going to do that with try to build a pot. But right here, I think it is looking more and more like he has top pair, a 9, or an overpair. So I think what we can do, if we come over the top, I think it gives him reason to fold the top pair and overpair hands, and we've got we've got sixes. There's really nothing we should be worried about. Yeah, there's a chance that he's going to catch trips himself if he has that overpair, but I think that's a risk that I'm willing to take. So I just called. Turn was a 9, and it's like, crap. I said 9-8 connected, but again, I don't think he's going to be check raising with his 2 pair of trips. And the board's too dry. It's like, why would he blow out ace king and ace queen if he has 2 pair at this point? So when that 9 comes, I actually don't think that changed much. I don't think that changes what he has. Yeah, he just now has trip 9s or 3 9s, but we're still ahead. We're still ahead of that. So he bets 19. So no, when I bet 5, he raised to 15. So 3 times my bet, which isn't pot. So pot would have been 22. So he did maybe between 2/3 and 3/4 pot raise. 9 comes out, and now he bets 19. So that's about a half pot bet. What is he going to bet with here? Let's get that continuance range for the flop. So we said 1 pair, top pair, and we did the open-ended straight draw. We did that. Okay, so now at this point, I think he's going to continue. I think 3 of a kind will probably bet again. I think the overpair will likely bet. I don't think the middle pair, weak pair, any of these are going to be betting. He did pick up a flush draw, and he could be betting that. And that those flush draws are part of other hands. So like open-ended straight draw, 8-7, ace-7. So I think he could continue betting to try to get me to fold with that flush draws. Open-ended straight draws, I already called, so he could bet again and then check the river when he misses. I think that's a valid play, but I don't think so. I think the open-ended straight draws. We're actually going to select out some of these. So like Queen 10, I don't think he's gonna call there, or I don't think he's gonna bet. 10 Jack might, right? 8, 9, 10 Jack. People play that. I I think the sevens call. You know, I don't think all of huh, ace seven. No, I yeah, I think the queen tens were might be the only ones. So at 84.3%, we're still like way ahead, 94%. We we're not folding. Question is, should we call or should we raise? I think if we raise, I think we're gonna fold out. You know, probably the open ended straight draw, probably the flush draw. Um, I think kind of comes down to the player. Is he going to be tight enough to where he just folds his overpair because he thinks that I have an overpair? I don't know. I don't know. I just called because now I've got a full house. There's no reason for me to raise and get him to fold some of the hands that he would have continued betting. Two of spades hit, so you know the flush got there, which I think is good. Um, and now when we look at against that entire range, we basically have a lock. So he bets 41, and he's got 41.6 left. So he bet, you know, a little more than half pot bet. Um, I think we have to think if I bet what hands are going to call. I think if he backed into that flush draw, he's probably going to call. If he has a nine, I think he's probably going to call. If he has an overpair, I think he's probably going to call. So he's going to call with three of a kinds plus, or I'm sorry, overpair plus, and that represents 40% of his range. I think the weaker stuff is just going to fold if I raise, but that's okay. You have 40% chance that he's actually going to call my raise, which means if we raise, we can we average 40% more of this 41.6. Well, not really. I mean, if he calls, we win. But we've got a 40% chance that we can actually get more, and I think we should take that. We're not going to lose anymore. I mean, I guess he could have quads, but again, I don't. Why would you check raise with trip nines on this dry board? I think if the board was a little bit different, with a high card and maybe draw a flush draw out there, then I think we would include pocket nines and pocket eights in that check raising range. I raised it, put them all in. He calls. Well, I didn't quite get them all in, but he did. He ended up getting all in, and he showed a seven of spades. So that was in his range. And if you think about it, when we did that, he check raised with open-ended straight draw. Uh, Open-ended straight draw, backed into a flush draw, so that I think that allowed him to continue betting. And again, a passive player like this probably doesn't bet again the open-ended straight draws unless you have some combo. So like open-ended straight draw with a pair, or like in this case, open-ended straight draw with a flush draw, and he hit it. He hit the flush draw. So we got paid off. All right, so what do we think of this hand? Well, we had a7 in his range. I think we're fine. I think if we raised on the flop, I think we could have raised on the flop, kind of represented the overpair. I think tens and jacks are going to have a hard time folding. I think most players have a hard time folding tens or jacks. I think a seven's going to probably call. I think a7 would call. So I think we could have check raised it. Maybe should have check raised it against a player like this. I mean, his check raise indicates something decent. But once we skip the check raise, then I think we just kind of have to call, you know, call that turn bet, because if we raise the turn bet, then we give him reason to fold. At that point, I think he can fold his draws and say, you know what, I must have full house. I called with a nine, or I called with pocket eights or pocket sixes. He could rationalize folding on the turn. On the river, I think when you got this flush draw hitting, and I mean, I think if this was a five of spades, even better one to raise. So Hand worked out okay, a little bit better than hand number one. Had it in its range, and we just move on to the next one and hope to continue, building a stack. All right, so thanks for watching. Look tomorrow for a couple more hands.